Folks, if you haven't turned Everybody ready to go? Okay. Call the meeting to order. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, if you haven't turned on your microphone, please do so. Okay, 7 green lights, very good. Okay. Can I get an approval of agenda? A motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Larry?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, agenda is approved. Minutes from March 2nd meeting? Any corrections, changes? No?
Approve? Aye.
I'll make a motion. Are you making a motion, Larry?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, all right.
I'll second.
All right. Gardner?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. No unfinished business, new business. Request SRU 20004 all-purpose landscaping. Mr. Sandifer? Yes, sir. Come on up and tell us about your proposal.
So, never done this before, but I don't know exactly what you need, but the proposal, I guess, would be to be able to use the property that we're on as a contractor yard for our company to operate it.
Okay. And we've got the packets here in front of us, so you don't have anything else you want to tell us about it right now?
I guess not at this time. I
Well,
guess we just kind of go through the meeting. And then
yeah, we'll be asking questions in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and have Sean give us the staff report, then we'll get back to you, okay? All right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can stay there.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. So there's some items of concerns and general discussion for this proposal. One is traffic. The applicant has provided a CDOT access permit that is approved for 32, and that's not necessarily trips. So when the CDOT access was revised, they went from trips, which was originally 20, to 32 at peak hour volumes. And so the difference between those two is instead of number of trips one ways there and back, the peak hour volumes is the number that could occur during those peak hours for that particular Central Highway in that area. So that's how that works. The CDOT does control the road and the access, but there is concern. It's a narrow driveway. It does slope down, as noted. The neighborhood and area, the department does not believe that the use and operation fits in the neighborhood, and it would affect. And then the storage of materials is the other notation. The department does not believe that the following approval criteria will be met, that the site will be served by streets and roads of sufficient capacity to carry the traffic generated by the proposed use, and the proposed use will not result in undue traffic congestion or traffic hazards. The department concludes that the proposal will result in traffic congestion and possible traffic hazards due to the amounts, location, and the access. That the location of the proposed use is compatible and harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. The department concludes that it would not be compatible or harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. The area consists of lots ranging in smaller size lots from 1 acre up to 5, but the uses are more residential and agricultural purposes. The traffic increase, noise, and other aspects would not be compatible or harmonious. And then that A2, encourage preservation of highly limited productive agricultural lands in the district for the master plan, that the area is agricultural and that this parcel would be supportive of agricultural. And then The other is concentrate commercial development in existing commercial uses to save on infrastructure costs and gain the benefit of centrally located commercial uses. In that area directly around there, there's really no commercial uses. There is the winery, which is located in the Brookside limits, so we would have nothing on that. And Fremont Paving and Ready Mix is down the road quite a ways.
Any pictures for us today?
One second. So this would be looking east, heading down 115. Here's the sign, the entrance would be right there. Just kind of looking down onto it, the different views. Some of the storage areas, equipment there associated. Parking areas. There's some of the material storage and stuff that's being there on that one end of the property. Here's the guardrail coming up the entrance there.
Is that all, Sean?
That's all I have at this time.
Okay, planning commission.
Kind of for Sean, do I understand they went from 32 vehicles per day to 32 per hour?
So it was 20, so there's the two things. You have AADT, which is the annual average daily traffic. The original permit was for 20.
Okay.
And that is, and so then that's split. So you have 10-way there, 10-way
Per
back.
hour or per day?
Per day. That's the,
Okay.
that would be the average annual per day. And then it was increased to the 32 peak hour.
Okay.
And so that 32 is 32 during those peak hours is the maximum. And that peak hour ranges depending on location on the highway and when the peak hour of that particular area is.
Are you going to have retail customers, or is it all going to be your vehicles?
It would be all our vehicles, we don't do
Okay.
any retail.
But you have a pretty good fleet, I see.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And on the,
Oh, there we go. On that peak hour, from what I understand, speaking with CDOT, is the peak hour is what they're really concerned about. That's like when schools 7 to 8 or 6:30 to 7:30. And so 32 during that peak hour, and basically they don't really worry too much outside of that. So speaking with, I can't remember her name, but she said there's going to be no traffic issue from their standpoint. I mean, if they approve the 32 peak hour, then they're not concerned that even if we made 100 trips outside of those peak hours, it was the peak hour that they were really concerned about.
Well, and you're going to leave in the morning and come back at night, so you
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
really be dealing with school
Yeah.
issues very much.
Yeah, I think their peak hour fell within the time range when we come in. That's why we wanted to make sure that we got at least those 32 approved coming in. And that's coming in and making a left turn, which is what they considered the most risky, per se, traffic-wise. So.
So, yeah, sure. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
So just a question. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the operation, what you would envision that to be, kind of like on a daily basis. I mean, describe a typical day, including any deliveries that you might get, or how you dispatch your guys, or what's going on.
Absolutely. So we work from about 7 to 3:30. So that means everybody's kind of gathering in between 6:30 and 7 a.m. We, have our meetings. We send the crews out. When we send them out, there might be 32 coming in, but when we send out, there's maybe 20 crew trucks that go out. deliveries are on Tuesdays and Thursdays primarily for most material. I think fuel kind of comes throughout the week as needed. You know, we do, as far as work goes, we do lawn care, weed control, and landscape construction. So those are the kind of different services that we do offer. The guys trickle in throughout the afternoon as depending on when they get done servicing the clients.
And so you don't maintain any piles of gravel or ornamental rock for sale there? This is just, you're just a service industry?
Yes, sir, yeah.
How long have you been set up there?
13 years.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, so I guess I really didn't know that was an issue, right, when I first started 13 years ago.
Okay.
And then it got brought to my attention, so that's.
So this is an after-the-fact approval?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I would have known that when I first started, you know, but I was 19, just trying to make a dream come true, and then it turned into a bigger business, and when the county zoning department approached us, we started working on the permit process, so.
Does anybody know what the traffic count is coming out of that cement company down there?
I do not know what that traffic count is off the top of my head. I could look, but I don't know.
Storage of materials. Right now, there's, as evidenced by the pictures, there's quite a bit of storage of different types of things. Some of it looks messy, some of it not.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
yeah, I didn't quite hear the first storage of what kind of materials were you asking about?
Well,
Just anything that's on there?
yeah.
Yeah, so we have, you know, we store ice melt in the wintertime. That's a major component in the winter to service ice melt. There is some rock storage, but that would be like if we have leftover material on a job, we bring it back and then we try to use it. There's an area that we're filling out to flatten out the land a little bit. So that's just like extra dirt that we're stacking up, and then eventually we're going to put crusher fines over that. There's organic material that we, you know, like sticks, leaves, debris like that we pile up and then burn as permitted through burn permits. We try to do that 2 to 3 times a year.
Do you store fuel for your vehicles on the site?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
And as a stand-up tank?
it is. Yeah, they're stand-up, gravity fed, and currently that's on a cement pad with containment around it. We also store pesticides in 2.5 by, they're basically 2.5 gallon jugs that get stored, and we don't have a heavy amount of those. I can't remember when I checked with the fire department, but we keep it within regulation of what we can store inside the building, and then we just bring it in from Van Diest as needed.
Is that considered a hazardous material?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
It's considered a regulated material, not necessarily hazardous, but regulated.
Yeah, that would be, yeah. And we have the proper signage on the shop per the Colorado Department of Agriculture for storing those materials.
Do you have to have a what is it? Hazardous material applicator license? Somebody does around there, don't they?
Yeah,
For those chemicals?
pesticide applicator. So I hold the qualified supervisor license, and then one of our tech is a qualified operator license, and then we train as needed. And the business holds, from a business standpoint, the applicator licensing.
And so if I understand this correctly, you've been operating out of this property, and what you're doing is trying to come back and get the proper paper in place.
Yes.
To continue that operation.
Yes.
And so I have a question for staff. Sean, so if they've been operating out of this property, have there been reported accidents or reported issues with the traffic that they currently have?
We have not had any reports of any concern on traffic at this point. And so We are complaint-based as far as code enforcement. So we did receive a complaint on this. We went out, inspected, it seemed that the business was in operation, and that's what kind of kickstarted this to get them to apply for the special review use. So those complaints, part of it was some of the materials being stored, as he's saying that they had the tree branches and they burned that. That was one concern that we did get part of the complaint, that the smoke and that type of thing from that, and then just having those materials stored there was kind of junky, junk trash and debris, and so that's what kickstarted it off. But as far as traffic, we have not had anything, and to my knowledge, CDOT has not either.
Okay.
And-
So,
and-
it's just one other thing. So in terms, that's one of the concerns that we have, that the county has, is traffic congestion and traffic hazards, but there's no change. We're not being asked to approve a change. We're being asked to approve what's there, essentially. Another concern that we have listed is that it's not compatible or harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. And I realize that there's a zoning issue here. The zoning for the AR zone does allow contractors' yards under an SRU.
That's correct, through issuance of an SRU.
Okay, I did go to Google Earth and look at the property. I have not been by there myself, except as, not looking at it specifically, but just in transiting from one place to another. But the Google Earth pictures that I saw show that if you look at if you use the length of one block side as a ruler, and you go out a block in all directions from the current property, there's a lot of property there that looks like there's a lot of storage going on, a lot of use of the property that actually looks a lot, as far as being harmonious with the surrounding neighbors, looks a lot worse than the pictures that we saw here. And so is the concern a zoning concern, or is the concern because we have a complaint?
It's a zoning concern.
It's a zoning concern. And if the applicant was here asking for an SRU for a contractor's yard, that is a permitted use if we find that it is, if we make the finding that it is not contrary to how the property around it is being used at present. Is that correct? Did I get that correct?
So if it meets, if you feel as a commission that it meets all of the approval criteria for special review use, and then the board is in agreement with that, then it could be issued and the use could.
I have one question, and this is, you're applying for the life of the use, right?
The life of the use, is that?
Yeah, so this SRU, did I see on there, this is not a 3-year SRU or a 5-year? What do we have?
So SRUs are generally issued for life of use.
Okay.
And that would be, I guess my intention would be to operate there for long-term if possible, if you guys see fit.
Okay.
Your driveway is tough, it's a tough area, but who is the ultimate authority on the safety of that driveway? Is it CDOT?
It's the CDOT control role, so they would be, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But you've been there 13 years and never had anything happen?
Yeah.
Not just,
any accidents?
Related to us, no. That guardrail that you've seen that was bent, there's a drunk driver from Florence almost every year that hits that guardrail. I mean, it's since I was born and raised on that property. I've seen somebody hit that, smack into that yearly, and I'm surprised they haven't put one on the other side of the road, because they hit that and then shoot like an arrow and end up upside down on the other side. But we haven't had any issues as far as wrecks coming in or out in those years.
So you're saying you and your people are cautious?
Oh, yeah, mhm, yeah.
I drove in there today and pulled that down. I have to say that your sign out front blocked my vision to the east when I was trying to pull out of the building. It made the visibility more difficult. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if there's some concerns that we need to deal with as far as if the sign feels unsafe to you guys, I can move that, no problem, or even take it down per se. I'm definitely open to making it work.
Sean, notices were sent out to the adjacent property owners, is that correct?
No.
They
So
weren't?
notices only occur right before the board meeting. So
Okay.
the adjoining owners have to be notified within a minimum of 14 days prior to the public hearing at the board meeting.
At the board
And the property has to be posted within those 14 days, and then it also gets published in the newspaper. It is not required pre-planning commission.
That was a change that was made a number of years ago. They used to require, sorry. They used to require notification before planning commission meetings, and about 15 years or so ago, they took that requirement out, and so it only gets notified before board of commissioner meetings now. So I think I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that always, because I think the public should have a right to be involved in this part of the process as well as the rest. But that's what we're dealing with now. That's the way the rules are made now, so.
Well, it's sometimes hard to make decisions in our level without having input like that. And the burden then it becomes a war at the county commission chambers. But that's not why I was asking the question. I was just wanting to clarify that there was no notice to adjacent properties. I just wanted to make that clarification
Okay.
for the obvious reason.
Yeah, all right. Well, I have several concerns I know you've been there a while, but I know that area pretty well, and I know there've been a lot of accidents around there, as you're saying, and whether they dealt with you or not, but it is a very congested area, and the driveway is definitely of a concern to me, coming in and out of there. I'm not sure, I didn't do the Google Earth as John did, but I've been out there and driven the areas, and I'm not disagreeing with the staff that I don't think it's really harmonious with the neighborhood, but I didn't see what you've seen, with the overhead views. Anyways, I'm also concerned that we've dealt with these before, we're dealing with someone coming asking us kind of for forgiveness for having not gone through the process once they're caught, and now, instead of asking for permission in the first place, now you're asking us to forgive you for not having done it, and that's problematic, and we deal with it frequently, and it's definitely got me concerned.
Sure. Yeah, and it was not meant out of any ill will or trying to break any, or bend any rules. I was definitely just unaware that, I'm aware now that there's zoning issues, right? Certain places need certain things and permits, and
Okay.
trying to make it right, for sure.
Okay. I will remind the planning commissioners that you have your approval criteria for SRUs. You have it, it's on your tablet, if you can access it there. We also have copies of it. And for an SRU, we have to say that it meets all of these requirements, not just one or two of them. So, but if you guys, I'll give you a minute if you want to look those up. And I can share this copy if somebody needs it.
Can I clarify a few things
Yeah.
with Sean? So how many years have you been operating out of there?
13.
And you've grown, obviously, in 13 years up, you have now 20 trucks?
Roughly, yeah. I guess I don't know exactly how many trucks we have. Let me, 1, 2, 3, 4. 15.
Okay. And your proposal looks like you want to grow further and put in several larger, the 50 by 100 building.
Not necessarily, I don't want to necessarily grow any larger. We just want to build out some buildings for storage, and we want to make it clean and professional and nice, and if we have equipment, it can be stored properly and those kind of things. But I'm not real interested in getting much bigger. It's enough headache as it is. Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I know where you're coming from, and and I appreciate you started this business on your own property, but at some point when the business grows, sometimes the business needs to move to more of a commercial area. I understand this is an approved use for this zoning district, ag, suburban or ag rural, I can't remember. So this is an approved SRU or use for an ag rural zone district?
It can occur with issuance of an SRU.
SRU.
Okay.
It can occur if it meets the criteria.
Okay.
If you break it down, each zone district has 3 major types of uses. You have allowed uses, conditional use permits, or special review uses. Depending on the category of the zone district, what qualifies as an SRU versus a CUP kind of change. But for the base, that's what you have. And so the CUPs, conditional use permits, and SRUs require approval recommendation from the Planning Commission and approval by the board.
Okay. And then 2 more questions for you, Sean. If what I was hearing, what John was asking you is correct, so you've only gotten 1 complaint in 13 years?
We had one individual submit an official complaint, and we have had 1 neighbor come in and talk to us about it. And that's what we have had during that time.
Okay, and then along with that, as far as CDOT, no complaints about this?
We haven't got any complaints about the traffic, no.
Okay, and then the last question, I'm having problem with the life of the use. I mean, this would seem appropriate to look at it and make sure it doesn't cause more issues if we were to approve this with a 5-year SRU. I don't know if this is possible. I'm asking the question.
You could, if you wanted to approve it, you could approve it with a lifespan. You could set a termination date of 5 years, or it could be that it would have to be renewed within 5 years. So it would be looked at again at that point. From a typical standpoint, SRUs or life of use, but that could be set as a condition.
Thank you.
Larry?
The only concern I've got, obviously, is with the criteria. How do we justify all of these points with the criteria being what it is and what we are dealing with right now there? I mean, that's the only concern I've got, you know. And I can't see where we're satisfying all of the criteria at this particular point, you know. So personally, I'm just kind of inclined to vote no on it at this point, just because of that fact.
Okay.
But
Other comments, questions, planning commissioners? I'm torn on it myself, I have to say. I have problems with it.
so if we turn this down, he has to shut down, is that the deal?
No, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay.
And we're just an advisory group.
That's true, okay, sorry.
That they will get the public comments, which we're not getting. And maybe there won't be any, but I suspect there will be. But they'll get those. They'll have a bigger picture when it goes to them than what we have right now. But we just give them advice, and they can reject it or they
They
can
do what they want.
accept it. Larry, you have anything? Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, this is a tough one to me. I hate to interfere with a business that's ongoing and that's been there for some time. I've always been pro-business sitting here, but this one definitely concerns me.
But Sean, there's really basically no way that we can approve this and not approve the criteria at the same time. Is there?
So an SRU would need to meet the approval criteria.
It's a matter of deciding whether you think that it does meet the criteria. If you don't think it does, I don't think you can vote for it. But John has some pretty good arguments for how he thinks it meets those. So it's an individual decision for each of you, I think. And I'm probably inclined to vote against this myself, but I'm still open. I'm still listening. So.
My plan is definitely not to disrupt the county or disrupt the surrounding areas. We would like to improve as much as possible and, put up privacy screening if it would help with those concerns that you have, trees, maybe privacy trees or some type of screened fence, nice looking fence like a privacy fence. We will do what we need to make sure that Fremont County is preserved and looks nice. And, I like operating the business here. It's a smaller town. We work all over. We work Pueblo West, Colorado Springs. I really like being able to employ people in Canyon City and pay them a decent wage. So, I really would like to stay put and stay here and keep business in here and, spend all of our plates are registered here and tires we buy here and fuel we buy here and,
Okay.
a couple $1 million a year and things that we purchase in Fremont County. And I have a passion for Fremont. I don't personally live here anymore, so it would be fairly easy probably if I got kicked out of there to move the business out of Canyon City, but I have a passion for the small town, was born and raised here. And we don't want to make a mess or have a mess, and we're open to, hey, if this material right here bothers people, then we can take it to the dump. We don't have to store the organic material and burn it. So I don't know if those can be made conditions of the SRU, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, how you could put, I was surprised when a landscaping company asked for a waiver for landscaping. That was a little ironic to me. But, as far as putting up fences, you'd probably block the view of your drivers getting in and out of the driveway even more, I would think, than it already is. So even though I would like maybe.
I guess, I was thinking more the house, it's nicely landscaped and rock, but the fencing could be below that and not necessarily up above and on the driveway side.
Okay.
Yeah, so down kind of toward the shop, we could fence that off from the street around the neighbors and just really kind of tuck that in. So it's,
Okay. Is the house, is that your office, or is that somebody living in that actually?
Yeah, I guess it would be considered a watchman's quarter once the SRU went through, but yeah, they're living in it right now.
Okay.
No office. Our office is actually in the old district attorney building currently.
The which building?
The old district attorney building. I
Oh,
think it is.
okay.
Yeah, it's not Mueller owns it over there.
Okay.
Can I get you to turn your mic on, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Does it just automatically turn off?
Yep.
Yeah, it keeps
It
turning off on me.
does.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Where do you live now?
I live in Pueblo West.
Okay.
The reason I made the move is we do so much business between the two, between Canyon and Pueblo, that I just centrally located myself because I'm either in Canyon or Pueblo daily, so.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead, John.
So we do have the 7 criteria that have to be met. And I think that I might be leaning towards voting yes on this. And I'd like to kind of go through those criteria, skipping the first one about whether section 8.2 has been met or not. But the location is compatible and harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. For me, that box is checked by looking at some of the surrounding uses, which are it was my understanding, looking at this, that we were going to be permitting a new business, a new SRU for a new business, but this business has been here. It certainly looks very compatible with all the trees and really just some cars parked there that seem somewhat orderly. The proposed use will not have detrimental effect on property values. You've been there for 13 years. I think that's kind of a gimme. The proposed site will not impair public health, welfare, and prosperity and safety by creating unsanitary conditions, overburdening of utilities, or adverse environmental influences. If this was an orchard, certainly permitted by use under our zoning rules, and they were burning, slash a couple of times a year, that would be very similar to what's going on now. The site will be served by streets and roads of sufficient capacity. The issue there, I think, is, if I understand Sean correctly, is that the driveway may be a little bit narrow, and with the signage things. But if those could be addressed, that would certainly end up checking that box for me. The site is sufficient size to accommodate the proposed use. That's obvious on its face. Again, the proposed use complies with all conditions upon which approval is contingent. In other words, if we make contingent findings and the commissioners agree with that, those would become then essentially rules you'd have to live by. But so, from the way that I look at it, I think that we have someone here trying to do the right thing, and considering that it is an SRU approved use, an equipment storage yard, which we have certainly approved in the past, I'd be inclined to vote yes. But with that, thank you.
Okay, all right, good. Other comments? More questions?
I did just want to notate that where the materials are placed and burned is within a floodplain. And so if that's leveled out and stuff, then they'll have to at least get a floodplain damage prevention permit, and that could alter, and they might not be able to do that.
So that could be a possible condition, is that correct?
Yeah, I have no problem. We have plenty of room to move that, that slash or what, to a different location and just completely stay out of the flood zone.
Where this land is at
Yeah.
Okay.
I can definitely keep everything well outside of that floodplain. That's no issue.
Have you considered any other location around here in this area as far as if you needed to move the business?
If I had to move, I wouldn't move it inside of Fremont County.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm open to a motion.
I will move that we approve.
Oh, can you turn on your mic?
I move we approve SRU 20-004 with the contingency to move the slash piles above the floodplain. And are there any other contingencies?
Perhaps move the sign or the fencing so that I think the contingency would be
Turn.
right in the middle of that, didn't it?
Yeah, it
Sheesh. That, I think the contingency would be to move the sign and fix the fencing so that there were no line of sight issues with exiting the driveway.
Isn't the sign parallel to the road now?
perpendicular.
Is it perpendicular to the road? Okay, well, that's,
It's definitely a line of sight issue. When I
okay,
was in-
well,
yeah, but-
I don't have a problem with that.
And those would be conditions, not contingencies.
Okay, conditions.
Conditions, thank you.
Is there, how feasible would it be to widen that driveway?
It would be expensive, but I'm sure it can be done.
All right, we have a motion on the table. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted.
I would second that.
John seconded that. Okay. All right. Your mics are turning off again, guys. I don't know. Everybody.
I vote aye.
Aye.
I was just going to ask for any more discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Do we want to consider a shorter span than the life of the use? Do we want to relook at this in 5 years in case it does cause more issues? Or do we want to just go ahead with the life of this use?
I would leave in my motion life of use.
Okay.
Life
What
of
we
use.
can do, he's going to leave it in his motion. You can actually propose an amendment to the motion, okay, Mark? And say you'd like to limit the use to 5 years and relook at it at that time, okay? And I think.
Well, let's vote on it in this way, and
Well,
it
no,
was
you
a
ha-
question, not a demand.
Okay, well, I
It was
mean,
just
no,
a
I'm saying
question.
if you'd like to, we can add that as an amendment to the motion. And if that passes, then we vote on the whole thing as amended or not, okay? But we need to vote on it before that. And I'll second your motion if you'd like to do that.
I would like to amend it that we do not do the life of the use, but we relook at this in 5 years. I honestly think it's fine, but I would like to revisit this and make sure it doesn't cause any more issues. So I would like to amend his motion that way.
Does that mean you'd have to go through this process and all the expense again?
No. So if it was given a timeframe of use, then it would have to renew it, and that would just go in front of the board for renewal.
Okay, I'm going to second Mark's motion, okay? Now what we have to do, right now, we're only voting on Mark's amendment, okay? So we're just voting whether to limit it to 5 years and relook at it. That's all we're voting on right now, not the whole
Okay.
motion, okay? All right, so Larry?
Well, do you have a problem with the 5 years?
I don't want it to incur any more expense. This was an expensive process, obviously. If it's not an expense issue, you know, I guess it's not that big a deal. I think if it gets approved and it has conditions that, you know, if there has to be dust control and privacy screening, I'm not sure why we would need to relook at it in 5 years, but
Now, how many years have you been there?
13.
How many?
13. We started it in 2008, so maybe, what is that now? 14, 13, 14?
Now, of course, I look at it, if they haven't had any problems in that number of years, then why are we just limiting to 5?
Okay,
So, so, Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
okay. All right, Larry? Yes or no
What?
on the 5-year limitation?
No?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, the amendment is defeated, okay?
Not adopted.
Yeah, not adopted. Okay, all right. Okay, now we're back to the original question, okay? Michael, can you turn on, oh, it's back on.
I think Larry's mic is off too.
All right, okay.
These things keep going on.
Oh, now your mic's on. Musical mic.
Okay. Are we voting now?
I'm getting ready to, I'm just gonna make
Okay.
one more comment, you know, I was, Larry, turn yours back on.
Your mic.
Your mic. Maybe there can only be so many on at a time, you know?
Okay.
Now yours is off.
I was just gonna make one more comment. I was ready to vote for this if we had the amendment, but I'm not going to vote for it now, but I'll just let you know. So we are gonna vote on the overall, the original motion now, okay? Gardner?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, you're approved. Here, go on to the county commissioners.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
It's really tough. Ascertain to indicate your grandfather date. I mean,
Yes, it should have. That's happens all the time. You start out little and grow.
but the correction is about made by this action.
Well, Matt, did you get a nap? All right, come on up. Minor subdivision 21002 South. You didn't bring your clients with you today?
No, he didn't show up. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Am I speaking first?
Oh, go ahead, you're there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, we are requesting a 3-lot subdivision. This is out on Telk Road in between Florence and Canyon. Right now, it's an agricultural piece with an existing house and barn and garage on it. My clients want to subdivide it for their kids. They have 2 daughters, I believe, that want to build right there and help them in their aging life, and they want to be close to them with the grandkids and stuff. So that's why they're doing this subdivision. Right now, we do have approval to use the well that's on site for service for the 2 new houses, as well as agricultural purposes for all 3 lots. There's an existing well for the existing house that's separate from that. The access for the existing house and lot will be off of Telk Road. The access for the 2 new lots will be through an easement that's existing, that's used for the access for the mini storage and 2 other houses over on the easterly side there. So they'll just be tying into that with no new highway cuts or anything like that. It will be on septic. There are no irrigation rights to this except from the well. You have any questions?
Well, we'll hear from Sean now, then we'll get back to you. Okay, go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so the department has reviewed the application and found to be complete and true representation of the requested stated herein, and the department finds that all minimum requirements per the Fremont County subdivision regulations will be satisfied by this application. There's 5 contingency items. First is access permit for Lot 1. The closure sheets was easy. Approval of zone change 21-001 South. This will go at the same board meeting, so those coincide. Until the official zone change is approved, it couldn't be subdivided in this manner because of the lot size requirements for ag living versus ag suburban. And then the easements for the water lines, wells, and then correcting note 7 on the plat, just to read, an engineer drainage study and plan will be required at the time of development of lot 2 or 3.
Okay. All right. Okay, commissioners.
Matt, where was the entrance for the access for the 2 lots that are going in? Is
It's
that
off of
the
Highway
top?
115, just right there at the southeast corner. It's an existing easement that's on the adjacent subdivision as well as part of this. And it accesses back to a house in the back, 2 houses in the back, and then the mini storages that are there just to the east, they access off of this into that too.
Okay.
Has that easement been surveyed and recorded?
It's part of the plats next door. There's 2 plats that have recorded it.
Already have it on?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a question. The Fremont County project engineer asked the question in his letter, and how are you going to access Lot 3 if you have to cross the pond?
Well, if we have to cross the pond, we can put a culvert in. The pond's not very wide in those areas, but there is room just to the north of that. There's 30 or 40 feet, I forget what it is. That's
Okay,
not part of that
I just
pond.
couldn't envision it, so we're
34.81
not
is what you
talking
have for it,
a
Matt.
20-foot wide pond.
Yeah, so there's 34 feet just to the north of that they can access, and that's where the planning to come in is actually right there on that property line, so.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Did I see somewhere this had some water shares, or was that somebody else?
It wouldn't be us, we don't have, there's no irrigating water
Okay,
shares.
Must be dreaming.
You know, they've gone through augmentation and everything for the wells.
But there was an unregistered well, was that an old house well?
Yep.
And not the irrigation well?
Not the irrigation well. Right in front of the existing house, there's a hand-dug well that actually runs pretty good, he says. So,
Probably don't have to go down very far.
no, I think he said it was 30 or 40 feet at most, so.
It's deeper than I want to dig.
This one looks pretty straightforward, but go ahead, John.
So the question for Sean, the packet that we had listed 5 contingency items, and those are still valid items, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And you've seen those contingency items, and you're good with those?
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? I think my
So you're
questions
going
have
to
been-
have to survey and get easements for the water lines, is that what it says?
Well, we're showing them on there. It's coming from the well. They're all located on lot 2, basically providing access to the adjacent lots from the well.
Okay, I guess you have to do that just for future generations. Okay.
Well, if no one else has anything, I'm open to a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve MS 21-002 South with the contingency items.
And the waiver and
And a
the
waiver.
deferment?
And the waiver, yeah.
And the waiver, okay. We have a
I'll
motion on
second.
the floor.
I'll second.
Gardner seconded that. Any further discussion? Larry?
Aye.
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 Okay,
So you sure you got Larry, his microphone wasn't on?
he said yes. Do you want to
fix
record that
these
as a
things so
no?
they
since
stay
he
on?
couldn't
Just want to
get-
make sure he got on
He
record.
said yes.
Can I ask a
That,
question?
yeah.
Thank you, voted
Yeah,
or not? So I do have a question.
Right, I
So
understand
how
that.
do the water rights work? You know, if his daughters were to move out 10 years from now and somebody else,
Mike?
so they own a portion of his well?
Right, so basically, each lot will have like a third of the use of the well for the residential use, what, actually,
Okay, so it is,
actually half.
they are getting rights to the well, not
Through the-
just
through the deeding of it.
approval from dad, right?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, there you go, go do it.
Okay.
all right. Okay, anything else? Well, we can ask more questions. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting now after something. Okay, we're adjourned.